Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said, 'An eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth.' But I say to you, offer no resistance to one who is evil. When someone strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. If anyone wants to go to law with you over your tunic, hand him your cloak as well. Should anyone press you into service for 1 mile, go with him for 2 miles. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not turn your back on one who wants to borrow." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise you.
The teaching of Jesus in this gospel passage can sound harsh and impossible to us. And Jesus is here quoting a particular passage from Moses and from Deuteronomy, which quotes precisely this, or says this precisely. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a life for a life. And the passage was not taken literally by God's people as a command for vengeance. As a lawyer, I happen to know that passage was more a way for judges in courts to mete out a sentence that paralleled the crime. It was actually a passage about justice and how to meet that justice for someone who has committed a crime. But Jesus is turning it all upside down and says, no, this whole concept in the ordinary person's life would mean that you're justified in revenge, in retribution, in getting back at someone for the way they have hurt you or how they have hurt you. And he is calling for a different kind of justice. One that is based not on giving each one their due, but on mercy and compassion and forgiveness and goodness. And he reminds us that when we let ourselves be led by our passions, our resentments, our anger, when we let those feelings take over our lives, they can become like a cancer in our soul, in our hearts, and in our minds, and enslave us to it. And we can be then instruments of great injustice and harm in this world. We are called, remember, to be salt of the earth, light of the world, to be living signs of a new way, Jesus' way, of God's way. And certainly, these were not just words Jesus spoke. These are words he lived. Spat upon, beaten, tortured, crucified and killed. From the cross, he still says, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Despite his knowledge of our continued sinfulness and continued persistence in sin, he offers his life so that we might be open to God's grace, to his Spirit. And it is this Spirit that can now allow us to live as Jesus lived. To not pay evil with evil, but evil with good. To look not with hatred and resentment, but with forgiveness and compassion of those who have hurt us. To run with generosity to give those who have been stingy with us, those who in our moment of need have not helped us. To be there like Jesus for others. It is this that will bring true peace in the world. Not one war that leads to another, one violent act that leads to another in retribution, but true conversion of heart that opens up the possibility for those who see our goodness to be themselves converted. That is what Paul is essentially writing about. He is calling the Corinthians to task. Because rather than giving example of tolerance and fellowship and love and forgiveness, they have shown misconduct. They have given themselves permission because they consider themselves saved to do anything and everything. And so he chastises them. I've endured everything. Persecution, misunderstanding, discrimination, injustice, beatings and jailings. I have endured everything with peace, so that the word that we received and that I have communicated to you may be authentic, may not be contradicted by my actions and my behavior. You must do the same. In the Second Vatican Council, in one of its important passages, The Church in the Modern World, spoke precisely of this, the fact that often the atheism and the rejection of Christ and his church and the world is owed to us Christians ourselves for not living up to the gospel, for not witnessing. And I'm not just talking about hierarchy, but the whole of the body of Christ, because we are the church. That we are, in no small way, cause for that practical atheism, an outright atheism that there is in the world. It is a point of reflection today for us. I cannot change the world. I cannot change the whole church. But with God's grace and Spirit, I can change me. With his help, I can be transformed into the likeness of Christ and be a witness to him there where I have been planted. In this Eucharist, let us ask the Lord to give us that courage to truly pray with conviction, that our hearts and our minds may be freed from all resentment, anger, and desire for vengeance or retribution, that we may truly love as he loves and forgive as he forgives.